you know.
Since you mentioned the church, talk to me about your own upbringing in terms of religion and how it impacted on you.
Well, it impacted hugely on me in a good way. See, I was able to kind of sift through the stuff that I knew didn't really have any relevance to me, and I took from it the things I love. Like, one of the things I love more than anything in the world is the image of the Immaculate Conception. You know what I mean? I just think that's the most beautiful thing in the whole world, and it speaks volumes to me, but not what they would like it to say.
What does it speak to?
You know what I mean? It's just, you know, that painting where she stands, it's just the most beautiful, beautiful painting, and she's, you know, she's so loving, you know, and it's like loving and peaceful and womanly in a really good way, but not the kind of pure, like, way that they're all talking about, in a real way, you know what I mean?
Pure
you know?
And passive is the...
Oh, but she doesn't seem passive to me. See, I don't look at that and think of passivity at all. I just think she's so sensual and alive, you know what I mean, that picture. The way they see it is all wrong, you know. I mean, you know, it's like any of those things, they're all a mirror. You just see yourself in everything, you know what I mean?
When you say you sifted through it and you didn't take the stuff they didn't want you to take...
Well, I knew they were mad, because one day this nun came into the classroom completely, like, outraged because somebody had left a hair in the food, and she talked and talked and talked for an hour about how disgusting hair was and how disgusting it was that hair should be in food and things like that. And I just thought, this woman is bonkers. See, I could see them kind of as people, and I really liked them. I liked a lot of them, you know, and I admired them that they felt so strongly that they were prepared to sacrifice life for it, but there was no way I would do that. I used to have nightmares when I was a kid. I used to pray to God that I would never want to be a nun. I used to pray, like, please, please, please don't ever make me want to be a nun. The thought of it used to horrify me, because I was terrified, because I was really religious and I liked a lot of the stuff, you know. I was afraid I'd want that, you know. So, I don't know, I think it served me very well, you know. That's why I liked singing and things like that, was because I liked to sing in the choirs, and I loved to sing hymns and stuff like that, you know. But I just took it for myself and what it meant to me, you know, and the reality of it for me. I didn't take their interpretation of it, if you know what I mean.
And what about the rules and regulations about how you're supposed to behave? You're not supposed to live with guys, you're not supposed to have sex outside marriage.
It has been my experience up to now makes me believe that there's a lot of sense in that there's a lot of sense in... I don't think they know what they're talking about, obviously, because they've never had sex, so they can't possibly know what they're talking about. So it's obviously for different reasons. But there's a lot of sense to not giving that away willy-nilly, you know what I mean, or to respecting what it is, you know what I mean, and not to... I don't think it's good to just have sex with people that you don't know. It's not good to get married to someone you don't know. It's not good to give yourself like that to somebody that isn't going to respect it and know what it is they have in their presence, you know what I mean? Through my own experience, through doing it and all that stuff, you always end up being abused. It's like being raped. You may as well have been raped, you know?
Except that you're participating voluntarily.
Yeah, but most of the time you're participating because you've projected your fantasy onto this person of what you want, you know, and they're never that. They're like, invariably they're some kind of horrible lying, you know, git, I'm sorry. You know, and you put your whole thing onto them, and you just allow yourself to be used.
What is the fantasy? Did you dream of happily ever after Prince Charming?
I want Prince Charming, yeah. And every man, it's true, you know, I wish I didn't do this. I have to stop myself from doing this. Every time I meet a man, I size him up as a prospective husband, and I think, I've been to kind of fortune tellers, and they tell me what my husband's going to be like, and I think, oh, I wonder if this is him. Yeah, like, I do it all the time, and it's stupid, but everyone wants that, definitely. I want... you know, I'm Sleeping Beauty just as much as everyone else is.
Well, will you get married again, would you say? Well, you still are married, of course.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not really happening. But it's not a bad situation. It's not your average situation. It's an excellent situation. You know. But yeah, if I was in love, yeah, and if I was sure that that all I wanted was in this person, you know what I mean, that I couldn't possibly want anyone else or anything else, and if I was happy with myself, then yeah.
In the relationships between men and women and sexuality, do you have a kind of a worked out position?
No, I don't. I mean, I think I'm definitely one of the fucked up people as far as sexuality is concerned, in terms of, I don't know whether it's because of having been abused or whether it's because of the church or any of that stuff, but I have a problem as far as I find it very difficult to have sex with people that I love, which is one of the reasons why my marriage hasn't really worked out, because my husband is like the perfect man. but I feel dirty at the idea of having sex with him. I don't want him to see me like that. I find it much easier to have sex with real bastards, like the one I've just been having the experience with. Do you know what I mean? It's much easier. So that's definitely a problem. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel comfortable at all. I find it very difficult to show my affection physically, although I'm a very loving person. I have a real problem with that.
You've used the word abuse quite a few times in terms of yourself. Can you tell me about that?
Well, you know, it's kind of common knowledge at this stage that my family situation that I grew up in was extremely violent situation, extremely violent psychologically, emotionally, physically, in every way. And so that is the thing that affects me. You know, what happened to me happened because it probably happened to my mother, you know what I mean? And that happened because it probably happened to her parents and back, you know what I mean? So, you know, it is relevant because it's caused by the attitudes of the country, the things that are put into people's minds, by the church, by the things they learn in school, by everything, you know?
To come back to the church, because you say you take a lot from it, and that you sifted it. I mean, they would say that you may not have a divorce.
Well, they can go and sod off. It's got nothing to do with them, you know. It's like they don't live in my house. They don't know anything about me. They know nothing about those kind of things. They've never experienced them. And, okay, if I'm going to burn in hell, it's none of their business, you know what I mean? It's my life and my choice. The one thing that God gave us above all of the other things that he created was the power of choice, free will, and everything is okay, you know.
So you don't have a problem about divorce for yourself in that sense?
Absolutely not. I have no problem at all with getting myself out of a situation that I know is going to be destructive. And if that means having an abortion, great. If it means having a divorce, great. You know, you've got to be responsible. As far as I'm concerned, responsibility is to... You have a responsibility to make sure if you are going to bring a child into the world that it's going to be loved that by everyone it experiences, that you do your utmost to make sure that that child is never traumatized in any way, which it will be if it's not wanted by one or other parent. You know, you have a responsibility to yourself to get yourself out of situations that you know are destructive to you. It's just a case of realizing that it's your life, you're driving the car, you know what I mean? Nobody else is. You know, nobody's going to be on your deathbed with you. You know what I mean?
So what about the church's attitude to sexuality?
The church doesn't explain anything. They don't explain what the Bible means. They put their own kind of stupid interpretation of it, but it's got nothing to do with what Jesus was actually talking about. It's miles away from anything they ever told us. What's the good in teaching us the Hail Mary, just the words? We're all sitting there going, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee, blessed art thou among women. And we never think about it. You know, they never tell us about her or her life, or, you know, they never make her a reality, or they teach us that God is something outside us and above us and something that we'll never attain, which I don't believe at all.
So when the priests and the bishops and all that say that women within the church, for example, could never be a priest, how do you react to that?
It's stupidity. It's stupidity. I mean, there were priestesses. You know what I mean? When society was matriarchal, it was priestesses all over the place. You know what I mean? I don't see why a man is more capable of serving God than a woman is. Why shouldn't a woman serve God? You know? But you don't have to be a priest or a priestess to serve God. You don't have to be. You can be a priestess without having the uniform on. You know?
You talked about when it was a matriarchy. What about patriarchy? Do you have any views on that?
Yeah, see, the difference between matriarchy and patriarchy is that when society was matriarchal, it wasn't a case of women being in control of men. It was a case of it being acknowledged that women were the ones that created. Women were the ones through who God created the human race and everything else. That the earth is female, that the solar system is female, that we react to the cycles of the moon and the cycles of the whole solar system. And it wasn't a case of us controlling men, whereas patriarchy controls us and keeps us down and stops us. And they do that because we were the ones that were powerful, if you like, but we didn't abuse power. Women don't necessarily abuse power as much as men do.
To switch out of that altogether, you started in the music business when you were 14. Is it what's it like? Is it a very free and easy, equal kind of world? Is it?
No, it is extremely sexist. Extremely. I've never put up with it, but it's extreme. I mean, I've been sexually harassed by record company executives. I know other girls that have been it doesn't just happen in terms of being harassed either. I mean, I had the whole thing when I started off of being told to wear little black dresses and hair and, lose weight and wear high
just
heels.
like you are now.
Well, yeah, because they figured that would flog records, if I kind of sexed myself up, which I just thought was embarrassing. I mean, I tried it. I just looked stupid, so I didn't do it. It was worth kind of taking in and thinking about, but then I realised that it was bollocks, so I didn't do it. And I realised that they just want me to look like their mistresses. You know what I mean? So, and it had nothing to do with, how you look has got nothing to do with anything. It's as far as I'm concerned, what's more important is how I sound if I'm singing. It doesn't really matter if I'm wearing a sack.
Yes, but I presume you knocked a bit of sport out of shocking people by shaving your head in the first place.
Well, that was one of the ways of counteracting what they were on about. They got the message pretty quickly, that there wasn't any point.
Do they have a problem with your hair, incidentally?
Oh, yeah, they have a problem with everything.
I have never seen you in a wig before, and it looks very, very nice. Are you thinking of changing from the shaven head?
I don't know. I might if I feel like it. Sometimes I feel like having hair on, and sometimes I don't.
Do you wear it often?
No, not very often, just sometimes when I want to feel like a real woman.
What do you mean by that?
Well, sometimes it definitely makes a difference. Having hair makes you definitely feel much more feminine. It really does. I mean, I feel like a woman anyway, but when I have hair on, I'm much more aware of the kind of sensuality of being a woman, if you know what I mean.
But why would you think you ploughed your own furrow from such an early age?
I don't know. It wasn't a conscious kind of decision. It never occurred to me to do things any other way. I didn't understand what way I was expected to do it, and I would have, I almost would have if they told me what I was meant to do, you know what I mean? But it just didn't occur to me. I just was doing whatever, I felt.
Would it have arisen from your family background? Was your mother independent-minded?
God. No, she wasn't, and I think it would have arisen from my family background from that point of view, because I wasn't going to be like that. I wasn't going to let that happen to me. What I was seeing going on around me, there was no way that it was going to happen, and there was also no way I was going to be silent about it like everyone else.
But you knew that's what you didn't want anyway.
I knew what I didn't want. And I don't think so much consciously as unconsciously. I was driven, you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's been a lot of publicity, a lot of coverage in the media about you and your private life, particularly in terms of your attitude to abortion. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. I've had 2 abortions. It's very difficult. It's a very difficult subject. It's not, I wouldn't feel, the concerns of the church would not enter into anything that I decided to do as far as either going ahead and having a child or not having a child is concerned.
How do you view their concerns first?
Well, I just don't believe what they believe. What I believe is that what they believe is that that it's murder, that it's murdering a baby, to have an abortion. As far as I'm concerned, it's murder to have a child that you don't want, to have a child that you cannot make happy. How many children have been born in this country? The statistics for child abuse in this country are horrendous. This country has one of the highest statistics, percentages of child abuse in Europe. So as far as I'm concerned, that's enough proof of the fact that people need to be allowed to have abortions. There's no point in having children that you don't want. You are murdering them by doing that, because they're just sitting there, they're being neglected, they're being abused, they're being treated like shit, they're being put into care, they're being given away. It's a terrible thing for a woman to have a child and then give it away, you know what I mean? I don't think it's right to be irresponsible, and I've been irresponsible as far as not using contraception and things like that is concerned. I don't think it's right that you can't go around just kind of having abortions left, right and centre. But you equally, you cannot have a child, you must not bring a child into the world that you cannot make happy, that you don't know is going to be a happy person and know that it's loved. Not even, okay, it might not be a happy person, but one that you can't give yourself to, give your love to, and have its father give his love to it too.
But you have an image of being very loving and very loving with children.
Yeah, I am. But okay, in these 2 instances, and the first time was last year, and I got pregnant, and the pregnancy was a planned pregnancy. I was very much in love with the father of the child. I was mad about him. It's the only time that I've ever really been in love, you know, in my life. So I was delighted to be pregnant, and he was delighted as well. But the fact was that things couldn't work out because the father of my child was doing a lot of drugs and things like that, which I didn't know about. And I was also a very unhappy person who had been abused severely when he was a kid, whose parents hadn't particularly given a shit about him, you know, and he wasn't able to cope with the idea of it. And I didn't feel that he could cope with being a father, so I had the choice to either go ahead and have the child, knowing that his father didn't really care and wasn't capable of caring about either me or the child because he was so unhappy himself, or not having the child. And I felt that it would have been irresponsible, as far as I'm concerned, for me to have the child. I'd much rather have a child with somebody that's going to be around, you know, like John is for Jake, you know, even if I'm not going out with them or stuff like that. I'd much rather do that.
Do you have a resistance to the idea of contraception?
No, I don't. I've just been irresponsible about it. No, I don't have any resistance to it at all. At all. It's just, you know, it's kind of, you get caught up in the moment, you know. But then the second time that I had an abortion was last week. Like I was telling you, I had an abortion last Tuesday in a situation where I started to go out with a man who's very much older than me, who's like 44 years of age, who I wasn't in love with by any means, but I fancied him and I liked him, kind of thing. And I went out with him and slept with him about 3 times and got pregnant. I thought it was safe. I thought I was getting my period soon, so I wouldn't get pregnant. I found myself pregnant. No, I was quite happy. I didn't really, you know, I found myself pregnant. There's no reason why I shouldn't have a kid. I had enough money to look after it. I have somebody to help me. I assumed that he'd be around and he'd be, you know, a father to the child and all that stuff. Then I discovered he's a wife in Devon. So I had to have an abortion. You know what I mean? There's, what the hell am I going to have that baby for? Even though I was really happy about it, and supposedly he was. He's looking me straight in the face, telling me how much he loves me and how happy he is, and it's all a complete lie.
Is that a huge sense of loss?
No, it isn't. God, no, it isn't. I'm delighted. I mean, I could have got sucked in. How many girls are in that situation now? Some married man telling them complete lies. Alternatively, if I had wanted a permanent relationship with him, which I didn't, he probably would have dumped her and the kid that they have already. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's like, this guy is a jerk. I'm not going to have his baby. Why should I? I don't want him in my life, and I'm not going to have a child whose father isn't going to be in its life, and I don't want him in my life. So, you know, I'm far better off out of that situation. I feel so happy. It's done me so much good. Ireland is in a kind of area of its own in that case. Definitely. You know, treating people as if they... Look at Anne Lovett, you know? Like, why couldn't Anne Lovett have an abortion? You know, a 14-year-old girl trying to have a baby. What a joke. I mean, her body probably... You know, a 14-year-old girl's body isn't even formed enough to give birth to a child. How can a 14-year-old girl be any kind of a mother to a child? You know, what kind of life will she have? And if she has the child and gives it away, what kind of life will she have? Every time she sees a child for the rest of her life, she'll be in agony. You know, agony. How many people have kids that they don't give a shit about? You know, and the church aren't there to bloody help them. Where are the church when the kids are being abused? You know what I mean? Where are the church to help them out and love them and, you know, teach them that they're all right? I'll tell you where. Nowhere. That's where.
You said somewhere that your women friends are very important to you.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of women friends, actually. I don't have a lot of friends in general because it's very difficult, you know, being a pop star, because, you know, you can't, people really use you, really seriously use you, like that, you know, that guy I was telling you about where I was pregnant and all that stuff. The only reason that he was going out with me, this is the second one, was because I'm Sinead O'Connor, because he thought, you know, I have a nice house and I have lots of money, you know, and he thought, oh great, you know, that kind of thing is a reality for me. So my circle of friends is very, very small because I have to protect myself. Mm-hmm. So I'd say that I have one female friend who's, you know, my closest friend apart from John. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that's enough.
And
for me.
Say when you're under pressure, say for example if you're pregnant and the guy is about to disappear, is that who you talk to?
Yeah, I mean, as I talk to myself now much more. I ask myself how I feel and what my instincts are telling me. So in every situation that I come up against, I try and ask myself what it is I want to do more than other people. I used to kind of depend on other people and ask them, but I always regretted it.
What would you like Jake to do? Would you like him to get married and live happily ever after?
I'd like Jake to do whatever he wants to do, and I'd like him to feel that he can do anything. You know, I just want Jake to be happy. That's all I care about.
Mm.
You know.
Would you like him, say, to marry somebody in the music business, that kind of thing?
I don't, you know, I really don't care.
Do you see him, in other words, kind of going the traditional route, or
I don't
not?
see. I don't see him going anyway. I see a 4-year-old boy, and he's wide open. I just hope he stays that way. I don't think anything else other than that. I hope he's able to know at any given moment what it is he feels, more than anything else. I hope he's able to take his head off and feel the way he does now. I hope that I can still see everything going through his face, you know, every expression, every thought that he has. I hope he stays like that, you know. I don't care what he does with his life as long as he stays like that.
You don't pitch your mind forward at all, no?
No, because I don't have the right to. I don't have the right to do that. I only brought him into the world. After that, he doesn't owe me anything. And
do you like being a mother?
I love being a mother. I find it very difficult, the kind of practical aspects. I'm not good at that at all because of my own experiences. Obviously, you parent yourself and your children the way you've been parented. So I find that difficult. But I see I'm lucky because I have someone to help me out. And John's like, you know, really the perfect man. He's unbelievable. He cooks food, comes in every day, looks after Jake and all that stuff. So, you know, I'm in a good situation. But there are things I can't give Jake. I can't give him. I can't go to the park with him. I can't do that kind of stuff. It makes me unhappy to do that kind of stuff. But because of association, because I haven't worked out all my own stuff yet, so I don't try to give him things that I know I'm not capable of giving him. But what I can give him is my love, and what I can give him is a sense of his feelings and his emotions and things like that. All the other practical material things, there's somebody there always to make sure that he has those things. I don't sacrifice myself for Jake. I think that would be irresponsible of me to let him see me do that. What I think he should see is me being myself, whatever that may be. I'm not like Miss Normal, really, am I? You know, I'm not what we're all told we're meant to be when we're a mother. You know, and I work and I'm away a lot, or you know, I'm kind of in my own world, really. You know what I mean? And so I kind of feel guilty about that I wasn't a good enough mother because I wasn't able to make the dinner, or I wasn't able to get out of my bed, or yeah, you know, that kind of thing. But no, I don't feel guilty about that. My duty to him is to be myself, whatever that may be, so that he can be himself. He'll only model himself on me, so I've got to be myself. And I've got to be able to talk to him and say, if I fuck up, I fucked up. You know what I mean? Sorry, I'm a human being. But me and Jake talk about amazing things. I have, like, you know, philosophical conversations with Jake that he starts. You know what I mean? Like, we have kind of religious conversations. Like, he'll sit there and kind of ask you questions, and he'll say things like, well, if God made Adam and Eve, who was there to mind them when they were babies, and things like that. You know what I mean? And he'll have those
impossible
conversations with me. You know, I love that. That kind of thing's great.
Would you like to have more children?
Yeah, I love it. It's hard, the whole abortion thing. Yeah, for that reason, I love to be pregnant. It's my natural state as far as I'm concerned. I love that. But I want to make sure I'm very aware, because of my own experiences, of how wrong things can go and how important it is to make sure that from the beginning things start off from a good footing. You know what I mean? That there's going to be love and nothing but love, so that it doesn't matter what comes at you. You know, they know that they're all right.
In reading about you, there's a fair amount of reference to the fact that you dislike sexism, and that you sort of seek it out and you won't put up with it. Is that how you would have arrived at, say, this notion of feminism?
See, I don't necessarily have a notion of feminism. I really don't like the whole label, but I think the whole point is not to segregate, it's not to separate and be away from men. Men and women are made to complement each other, as far as I'm concerned. They have differences that are very subtle and that are there for a reason. We're supposed to complement each other, and so what we should be working on is learning how to do that and how to communicate with each other, rather than separate ourselves from each other and fight. You know, men are more than willing to do anything, really, for us. They do love us, you know what I mean? The reason they sometimes abuse us is because they're unhappy, because they don't know who they are, what they are. They don't know what they're supposed to be for us. They think the women's movement has made them think that they're supposed to be soft men, you know, that they're supposed to be in some way kind of slaves to us or something, which isn't what we want at all. Okay, we want men to respect us and be nice to us and all that stuff, but at the same time we want them to be able to slam us up against the wall. You know what I mean? We don't want, we want the real man. We don't want some wishy-washy thing. And if we want that, we have to make sure that we teach our sons to be that,
So say when you were growing up and people like Nell McCafferty or Mary Robinson or that were campaigning, did you find it a turn-off?
No, you see, it was all going on outside as far as I was concerned. I didn't listen. The only thing that I was really affected by was Anne Lovett, because I think I was nearly around the same age when that happened, or a little older. I don't really have a notion of feminism. I don't have a notion of anything other than that anyone, male or female, that says to me that I can't be what I want to be, that's their problem. Do you know what I mean? And it always has been their problem, and it's hurt me on occasions, and it's made me feel really bad about myself, like I'm not good enough or something, or I'm mad or I'm bad or something. But the conclusion I reached eventually was that it's their problem.